Hello everyone, I'm Jay Houhan. This is September 28th, Thursday, and this is my podcast number 2. I'm running for U.S. Senate for the state of California, and I'd like to talk today more about inflation, and in particular some of the things that are driving it. We were being told for months that inflation was under control, and last month it went back up, and I'll tell you, you ain't seen nothing yet. Inflation's going to get worse because the causes of inflation are not being addressed, and the causes of inflation are being augmented by the current practices of the Biden administration, and it looks like the Democratic members of Congress and some of the Republicans too. This week they're talking about a government shutdown. And the sticking point is that there's a group of Republicans in the House of Representatives that want to cut spending back to the pre-COVID levels, and I'll be talking about that. But first I'm going to talk about earmarks. What's an earmark? Well, an earmark is a special little gift or bonus or designation by a member of Congress to give money to one of the programs, usually in their district. And earmarks were abolished by the House leadership, Republicans, in 2011. But after a 10-year hiatus, when Pelosi got back in power, she reinstated the earmark system. And while they issued a lot of earmarks, here's my numbers here. So in the infrastructure bill that was passed by the House in 2021, there were 1,476 earmarks totaling $5.7 billion, including 400 projects proposed by 116 Republican representatives and 1,067 by Democrats. There was a study done by the Brookings Institute about these earmarks, and they basically said that there was a qualitative difference between the earmarks proposed by Republicans versus Democrats. Democrats primarily focused on giving money to their interest groups, the ones who voted for them, and Republicans concentrated more on projects that would benefit the entire district, like infrastructure. Now, here's some more stuff about this. Politico reported this week that our friend Adam Schiff, from 2001 to 2007, he sponsored earmarks for, what's them on here? $7.7 million. Okay, no, it's $10 million to defense contractors that paid him political contributions. And that has a lot of people up in arms. That's reported by Politico. That's like the Pravda of the Democratic Party. You always know what the party line is if you read Politico. And I will give credit to Katie Porter. She doesn't seem to engage in earmarks. But let's talk. Earmarks are one of the problems that we have in government. It's a problem of corruption. And you might think that America is lily white and clean and we lecture other governments about corruption, but there's a lot of it here. And as we can see by the indictment of Senator Menendez, I make no judgment as to that. I'm not going to refer to that. There's a lot of problems with corruption in Washington. Look at all the people in government that leave with fortunes, like Anthony Fauci. $11 million is what his net worth is after a lifetime of service in the government. Okay, so I want to say one thing about earmarks is that when I'm elected senator, I'm not going to participate in earmarks. It doesn't matter what people contribute to me. I'm totally blind to that because, look, if I get the help of you, the middle class, the little people, so to speak, that's good enough for me. I don't need the big people to tell me, the big money people to tell me what to do. Here's, let's see, in fiscal 2022, there was, Schiff got $7.7 million in earmarks, Pelosi 11 million, Barbara Lee 10 million and change, Dianne Feinstein 21 million, and Alex Padilla 42 million. Now some of the Feinstein and Padilla are combined because they co-sponsored each other. Overall, Democrats had 5.2 billion of earmarks, Republicans 5 billion. Now, another related thing with corruption is, just before the last midterm, Biden said, I'm forgiving a large segment of student loans. Now, he knew that it was unconstitutional. He knew it was going to be struck down, but it's a way of trying to buy votes. And that's what a lot of government spending is to buy votes. And I think in our country, we shouldn't be buying and selling votes. And I want to put a stop to this. Here's what's happened as a result of this. In 2019, our federal budget was $4.4 million. And our deficit was about $1 trillion. That is, we spent more than we took in revenues. And we financed that by borrowing money, printing money. And that's what eventually caused inflation. Especially when you get to 2020, a budget of $6.6 billion, a spending of $6.6 billion, and a 3.1 million deficit. That's with COVID. Remember, the government fiscal year ends September 30th. So in a couple of days, we're going to end the 2023 year. All right? So the 2020 budget with a 3.1 million deficit, that was mostly for COVID. That was when all these COVID programs, a lot of the money went to fraudsters, but let's talk about that another time. 2021, 6.8 billion, a little bit more, and the deficit was 2.8 billion. Still, that's the infrastructure bill. That's other bills, mostly Democratic passed, that just blew the doors out. And that's when inflation really started kicking in. Because inflation is the oversupply of money. Too much money chasing too few goods. And when you flood the country with that amount of money, that is, what's the ratio of the budget to the deficit? Well, the deficit made up about 40% of the budget. That's a lot. That causes inflation. Now for 2023, it was estimated our budget was going to be 6.4 billion and the deficit 1.6, but it's coming out at 1.6 trillion dollars. That happened primarily because the revenues went down, because a lot of the governor's money comes from people taking capital gains, and in the last 12 months, people haven't been taking capital gains because the stock market is down and because the housing market is down. At any rate, that's $2 billion out of 6.4. That's about a third, almost like 30% extra, and that we're spending, that we're taking in. And that is what's going to drive more inflation. Well, why did the budget increase 45% from 2019 to the present? Well, because no one's minding the store. There's a small group of people there's the House, some small group of House Republicans. They're called the Freedom Caucus. There's a few people in the Senate, notably Senator Paul from Kentucky, that have pushed back, but it's been a free-for-all. We have to cut the budget back to 2019 levels. Let it increase 3% a year. We can't go on like this indefinitely. We're not in any kind of big crisis now. We're not at war, at least not officially. There's no reason for us to run such big deficits. We can't leave this to our children and grandchildren. We can't let inflation continue. It will continue until we stop the deficit spending. It will continue until we learn how to have a budget for government and follow that budget. How many of you in your households have had your expenditures increase 45% over the past 4 years. Maybe you made more money, and that's great, but you didn't make more money, so you shouldn't be spending 45% more and putting on credit cards like the government's been doing. I pledge to you one thing. When I'm elected, I'm going to be the most tight-wadded senator among the 100 there. I'll probably be hated more than anybody else because, like a lot of you, I've had to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be in debt. I don't like to be in debt. And we've got to run our government on the same basis. Well, let me finish by saying thank you for watching. Please visit my page if you haven't already, handforusenate.com. I humbly ask for your donation to my campaign. I will use it very carefully, I promise you. And please subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble or on Twitter or on your favorite podcasting platform. And once again, I thank you for your time. I wish each one of you the best in your personal lives. Thank you.